Okay, here we have a 3rd and 3 situation. I'm in a spread set this time. So it's the first time I've shown you something besides the I formation. And I'm running that wide receiver outs. As you can see, they're called wide receiver deep outs in this too. And so you can see they're getting those outs there. It's 3rd and 3 here. So my big thing would be take away the under stuff. Cover 2, you're in a good defense for this formation. This is that you're still in that same nickel or dime set. It's a 3-4 nickel or dime. I can't remember which because I don't really use the 3-4 very much, so I don't know what they call it in the game. But and it looks like you're in a cover 2 here, like a straight basic 2 zone. So you have this guy dropping off here, him here, and then he'll bump and he'll bump. And in this case here, he does a good job because as you can see, I don't have anybody coming over here to this flat, so he just stays with them. So that's perfect. That's fine. Backside here, you might want to bump up, like bump and run here, mainly because I do have this guy. So you want to be able to hold this guy up as long as possible, so that when this guy gets there, maybe he can hold him up long enough to where I don't have anything here at all. But I was already looking inside, and just looking at what you ran here, your defense was fine as far as what you called. You called a cover 2. To me, that's a good play. I think the one thing, like I said, we keep talking about is the users. So in this case, I would user this guy here. If I'm calling a cover 2, I almost 100% of the time, probably like 95, 98% of the time, I'm using the middle linebacker. All right, and that's because I want to be able to cut these 2 routes off. Most teams, myself obviously included when I'm running this, as you can see, they like to run some sort of drag routes, whether it's the little shallow ones where you have the 2 guys coming real short, or in this case, I have kind of an intermediate one here, and then that deep one, the post route really. And so what you want to do is use this guy here, and all you have to do is really sit, okay? And you'll go to the first guy first. So this guy's, since he's shorter, he's running the shorter route, he's going to get to you first. So what you want to do is then you step up to him enough, and then you just stay with him, all right? And you keep staying with him as long as possible. And once you see this guy get to a certain point, like right about here, then you break off to him. All right, and the reason you're doing that is because now you can pass this guy off. All right, so once you get to this point here and you have that crossover, he's got him for a little bit, or he should at least. All right, and then he should let him go so that you pick that up. And then when you let this guy go, he should be picking that up. Okay, so that's how you should run that in this case. That's what I would do in this case, so that you can really do your best to take away these 2 routes. And if you can do that, now there's no guarantee that you're going to get the stop. Obviously it always depends. If I have all the time in the world, which a lot of times I do because I have this really good line, but not everybody's going to have that. Everybody uses the different teams. The Cowboys just happen to be my favorite team, so I use them. And but even still with the Cowboys, the same thing can happen. If you're able to hold these guys up, the longer it takes for me to find somebody, the more you're giving these guys an opportunity here to make a play. So if you can do that, where once you see this guy coming, you stop on him, and you go with him a little bit, and then you get to the point here where you see this guy about to get to your area. You don't want him to get even with you and then break off. What I mean by even is, like, if he's here and you're here, you're beat, because then you have to turn all the way around to try to get there, and he's already going full steam. So when he's about maybe 3 yards before, so somewhere like right here, maybe 4 yards, I guess, then that's when you want to break off. Plus, you got to remember, this guy should be coming here, and then he should see your guy coming, and that's who he has to take. That's how zone defenses work. That's how they work it in the NFL as well, in real life. So let's see what they do here. So as you can see, he's moving in with him. Now the computer's using him, and for some reason he steps up. I don't know why he does it, but he does. And it basically freezes. I can hit this guy once he got even. You saw how, like what I mentioned by even earlier, I throw the ball right about when he is even. So you see my guy's getting ready to throw the ball. He's even right now. I have this guy beat, and there's enough space in here for me to be able to hit this play. Now you still might be able to knock that ball loose. And really I should have hit the deeper route actually, but this is usually my first read, and I saw it, so I went ahead and hit it. And see, there he goes, makes a catch. So if if you're controlling that guy, like right now you're using the D lineman, if you can get off and make the sack real fast, that's great. But not everybody could. To me, that's really hard to do. I've tried it several times just to get used to it. I'm not very good with that. So unless you're really good with that, then I would spend my time here learning how to play this. So like I said, you stick with him, and then you can can go with him and gain depth as you're going, because he's obviously gaining depth too. And once he gets to about, well, maybe a step or two, right about there, so then you'd be with him right here over the top. Or actually, you can stay underneath, that's fine. And once you get to about that point, then you start working your way deeper so that you can cut off that route. And then this window here is basically gone, because if you stay with him even just a couple steps right to here, I can't throw that. I'd have to wait longer and wait for him to try to get past here, which this guy should be able to pick him up because he's still gaining depth. And then same thing with this. Even if he beats you, because obviously this linebacker should not be as fast as my receiver, and so even if my guy beats him, if you're staying with him long enough, then this guy should be able to come over, help out, and make a play. So it closes the windows basically. So anytime you're in any kind of zone, there's windows. You know, you have this big window right here, and then you have these windows here in the cover 2 at least, and then right here, and then you have the deep outsides too, so right about there. Same thing with this one. So the more you can get used to helping out and moving around within those zones, the tighter these windows get, the harder it is for me to be able to find a spot, or for anybody else to be able to find a spot to throw to. Okay, so like I said, if you bump up here too, and this is kind of the other thing I wanted to show you, because he actually gets open, but I already seen what I wanted. So right there, you see he kind of does bump him a little bit, but if you're tighted to it, he can stay with it longer and maybe hold him up on the line of scrimmage, because there all he can do is get a hand. If you're like up tight on him, then he can get both his hands on him and jam him up pretty good, which makes it a lot harder. And then, you know, release him, and he still may get open, but it'll take longer. So if you're doing everything here, and then it takes longer to get this guy open, and even still I may not see him, you know, just depending on what I'm looking at. But he would be my last read anyways. Just personally, that's my last read, but he's not necessarily everybody's. Some guys like to look to right, to left. In this case, I just go with where I see my strength, which is obviously I got Dez over here, so I look to him first as far as my outs reads. And so if you do that, then it'll take longer for him to get off and get over here and give these guys a chance to get loose and make a play. And this is the last play of that drive, and as you can see, I'm in a spread set. I'm running the wide receiver deep outs again with the crossers again. Okay, now looking at it here, you're in that same nickel style D or whatever this is here with the 2 down linemen, and that's a good D for this offense, because obviously I have 4 receivers. You want quicker guys, so you at least have more linebackers. I personally would probably go quarter set, just so I have the extra DBs in that case. But this is fine. This isn't bad at all. The play you ran here was like cover 2 or cover 3 Mabel, I think it's called. Not a good play to call for this situation, okay? Especially in a spread set, so you know I'm probably 90% of the time going to pass the ball. You know, unless you're playing a guy who runs these sets and then just runs all day long. You know, you can mostly expect a person to pass when they have 4 receiver sets. But either way, actually, if they want to run all day on this, they're not going to be able to run very much, I don't think. Not with this kind of set, because 5 linemen versus the 6 guys up front. So this guy here is going to have a lot harder job, because obviously you can't count the quarterback as a blocker. But anyways, so with what you're in here, we'll go ahead and run the play and I'll show it to you. And it's just not a good play as far as the play you have called. One thing you did do, though, is I see you brought these guys up a little tighter this time, and that's going to help with those out routes at least. So we'll go ahead and look at that. So right there, you see they're bumped up. He's bumped up on this side, but they're in zone. They're going to release him. But even though they release him, see, this guy's in good position, so I can't throw this at all. It's going to be intercepted if I do. Same thing on the backside here. It's maybe a little less dangerous for me, because I do have that running back coming this way. So this guy's going to start to attack here. I could probably try to make the throw right here, and I might get the catch, or it might go out of bounds. But I would have to throw that high and give it a little air just to make sure I got it over the top. That's a good thing about being so close to the end zone here, is this back line is your friend. All right, and I use that a lot when I'm playing, actually, you know, when I have goal line situations. But as you can see, now you have these 2 guys here, and this linebacker for some reason just sits. I don't know what he's doing there. It's just not a very good thing for him to be doing. So, you know, honestly, I would never call this play down here in the goal line. Honestly, I would not call this at all against any kind of passing formation. Against run formations like the I formation, go for it. But even then, if you're going against the eye and you have somebody who passes a lot out of the eye, then you may not want to call that either, because it leaves, look at this huge, I mean, really intermediate to deep gaps on both sides. I mean, just look at all that space. So really, both of my crossers are open. He's not open just yet, but once he gets even with this guy, he's got that beat, and that's touchdown. So we'll go ahead and I'll talk to you. Okay, well, you see what happens here. Throw the ball, catch the ball, touchdown. Okay, so we'll go back. If I'm running this play, I'm going to go cover 3. And this is almost the exact same formation that I run, or very similar at least, that I run my goal line. This is kind of my goal line offense, at least until we get to about like the 1, and then I switch up to a bear set out of the 4-6. Or you can just go goal line defense, and that's fine. But I go out of a set similar to this. I go that 4-6 normal, and what that is I have my safety just basically moves down here, and then my outside backer is right here in this case. And then this is basically a very similar alignment. What I would do though is I'd go cover 3 every single time here. Anytime we're inside the 10, I'm probably going to be in a cover 3 out of a 4-6 normal, or if I have a heavy set, then I'll run the 4-4 split. But in this case here, I go cover 3, so that means that this guy's actually going to drop off, but I would bump him up to where he's at least lined up on him. So like I said, it makes it more difficult for him, or it takes longer for him to get open. So even though he's going to keep dropping, and this will open up eventually, it takes just a little longer, so that make me hold the ball longer. But anyways, I go, like I said, cover 3, so that would really take away me being able to throw the back pylon too. And then I hit triangle and down to hit the make the hard flat. So instead of these guys running the little curl to flats where they're getting depth and then coming down, I want them to come down now. I want them playing the short routes now, in case you get the arrows or the little quick hitches or quick outs, and they'll take that away on both sides like that. And then I'll spread these 2 guys out. I'll widen him out to where he's lined up on the tackle, him out to where he's lined up on the tackle here, so they'll be there, and they'll run their little hook zones. And when you widen them out like that, that puts them in a little bit better position in case you get the slant routes from the outside guys. They'll be able to pick that off, or at least put them in better position to have a chance to make that play. And then since you spread these guys out, you have this guy out, well, about right here, and this guy about right here. I bring this guy down to about the 1, maybe the 2, and I have him play shallow unless I see deep. So once this guy gets to a certain spot, then yeah, I'll have to gain some depth. But it allows you to play, like I was telling you before, you start with this guy as he comes into the zone, and then you bounce off to this guy, and then this guy should be able to pick that guy up. Okay, either way, makes him hold the ball longer and gives these guys up front a chance to get the sack. So that's how I like to do that, and it really does help out because you also have this, your friend back here, the end line. So, well, that's that for this drive. We'll go ahead and go to the next. Okay, this is the start of the second drive here, and I am running that spread set. I'm going with that wide receiver deep outs. I wanted to see if you adjusted, and you did. So you went back to that more of the dime or quarter kind of set here. I think it's a quarter set because you have only the 1 down lineman, and now you have 3 linebackers, and then you have that safety who was sitting right here, and then he ended up motioning here. And I know it's because you're running man up 3 deep in this case, so you get the 3 defenders there, and then man up everywhere else. Now, since you're running that play, again, you want to get away from using your lineman because you still use your lineman here. I'm running, I got the cross here, the post right there, and then the deep outs. So that's what I'm running. You're basically bumped up. That's good. If you're going to be in this man up 3 deep, especially in the middle of the game as opposed to like the end of the first half or the end of the game, then yeah, you're going to want to bump up a little bit and cause some pressure at least, and try to help these guys to be able to free up a little bit to make a sack. But you're going to want to use in this case, like when I use this, I always use this at the end of half and end of a quarter. I don't tend to use it very often like in the middle of a game, but it's not a bad thing to call in the middle of a game. That's just how I call it. But I always use this guy right here. That's the guy I'm going to use, because you have these guys are kind of like a cover 2, so they're going to help out with anything deep that goes anywhere really, because they'll be able to move back and forth. So you can still keep him going deep, but now you can help out with him. All right, you can almost use this guy as a freebie guy. All right, because this guy here has to lock up on the back, and I always send him out here, so he'll go there, and then these guys all have to follow. Now, whenever you're running any kind of man-to-man, it's really just about if your guys can hold my guys. But if I have time to throw the ball, eventually these two guys will at least get open because they're running the crossers. Anytime you get a crosser coming, it's going to get open eventually, unless you have Deion Sanders kind of guy covering it, and they're able to stay with a good receiver. Or in this case, like my guys here aren't the best ones. My best ones out here, obviously. So these guys may not be fast enough to beat them all the time, but more often than not, they will get open. So we'll go ahead and run through this. Let's go ahead and do that real quick, and let's see what you could have done to help yourself. All right, so you can see right there, I've already got you beat here. He's got you beat right there. And I just hit the first one because he's always my first read in this case. I look here and then come back across. It's just I'm a little bit different in the way I do that than most people do that. And so obviously you see there I hit it for a first down or for a 9-yard gain. What you can do though, if you're using this guy now, you can step up right here. And now it makes me have to hold that ball even longer. And then I have to figure out where you're going, okay? So if you just step up even right there and you don't do anything else, I still have to hold it until my guys get even, which could get one of your guys free. All right. Now, as you go on with it and you make your decision, and if you make a decision to go with one of these guys, I would almost always err for the deeper. Okay. Even though these guys aren't too much difference in depth, I would always take that guy first and then worry about this guy after, just because he's the deeper one. He can do more damage in that case. But in this case, obviously, I just threw it, hit the guy, boom. So, like I said, in this case, not a bad call. I like the call you made, but you got to get away from using this guy, and that's the big thing. That's going to probably be the big theme for the entire time that I'm calling this, is getting off this guy and learning how to play with safeties and backers. Okay, I would never expect you to use a cornerback. I never use them myself, or at least I very rarely do. And if I do, it's because they're in a zone and they're locked up on a tight end more than, say, way out wide where I can't see them. So like I said, but this guy here and this guy here, those are the two guys you really want to be able to use, or these guys actually too, when you don't have this guy there. But those are the guys, all these in here, that you want to be using, as opposed to this guy, because really, unless you're really good at getting off and getting the sack every time. In this case, I get the double team, so you had no chance. Especially with those guys. That's Zach Martin, or that's Travis Frederick, Zach Martin. That's the best center in the game right there, and that's one of the top right guards in the game. So it makes it a lot harder for even a really good guy, especially on a double team. But yeah, so everything else here is pretty good. Like I said, I would just start learning to use him. You can step up and make me hesitate a whole lot more, and then you can take away one, and then I might make that mistake. I might think you're taking this guy here, or you're going to go with this guy, but you're actually throwing to him, and I might throw it right to you for an interception. Okay, so that's what you're kind of wanting to do with that, is create situations where your opponent's going to make the mistake, and that's how you do that. When you're playing this guy here, you're not going to do that very often. Okay, I'm in that spread set again. I'm running the wide receiver deep out, so I got the outs on both my guys here, and then I got the drag and the post over the middle here. Now, the only thing we really want to talk about here, the big thing, again, using him and sticking with this guy when he comes across, and then bouncing off. That'll be a big thing to help out and make sure these guys on the inside don't get beat. But the other big thing is you're in a cover 2 look here. Bump those corners again, because right now they're loose, and even if they are going to bail, say in a quarters look or a cover 2 sink, that'll help to make me have to wait throwing the ball, and might open up a rush. But as you can see right there, you're in a quarters, and so yeah, that opens it up. If you're bumped, it'll make me hold on to that longer and maybe put this guy in a better position to help out and make the play still. He may be a lot tighter in that case. So that's kind of the big thing again with this, and of course using that middle linebacker.